Greetings, flesh creatures. It is I, Megatron. On behalf of TFYLP, I want to congratulate you for listening to the most refined collective podcast on this miserable little planet Earth. Yes. Here you'll find knowledgeable fans discussing every aspect of Transformers and beyond. Now, enjoy the show while I continue my path to complete conquest of all of you miserable biological entities. Predacons, terrorize!
Hi, welcome to TFYLP, episode 501. We are live tonight. It is Wednesday, October 26th. I'm Lucas. I'm joined tonight by Phil.
Howdy!
And Anna.
Good evening.
And Christian.
What up?
We should call tonight's show Macrocasters because it's
you
basically microcasters, but we're talking about a big thing instead of a little thing.
Yeah, since I didn't feel like having a show Monday night immediately as we got back from our 8-hour drive from Chicago.
Yeah, we would have been awful. Can you imagine us trying to do an actual show? Like, we're already super professional, but
I don't know, man. I've had a few of those shows where everyone was just really tired and everyone watching is just like, you guys look really tired. So, yeah.
That's because we are.
Right.
But not tonight. We're all fully rested and ready to go.
Ready for the party.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know about fully rested. Like, I'm on the way to fully
Right.
Yeah, I need like another day or two.
I managed like 7 hours of sleep last night. That is like twice as many as I got at the convention per night.
So,
those were late nights.
Or, I'm sorry, Cassetticon Tune said in the chat, I still can't believe you guys made that drive. Anna and I have actually made a much longer drive to DC, which was, 16 hours, I think, right? Each way?
16 hours. Yeah.
So we've made an even longer drive. And then, there's TFCon Orlando, which got announced for next fall, which I'm not sure if I'm going yet or not, but if we do, we may potentially drive to that. So we'll see.
You're going.
That's 20 hours. Oh, I'm going?
Yeah.
Honestly, if you said, Anna, I want to go, let's road trip again, I would say yes, even though that's really ridiculous.
Well,
I feel like at this point, if you didn't road trip it, I would be disappointed.
Right.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I will say, so I've flown to TFCon DC in the past, and then I've flown to TFCon LA. I don't think that I would ever drive to TFCon LA. That just seems crazy. But maybe it's not that much further.
I definitely wouldn't.
Yeah.
Be even further for you. But you could stop at our houses. You could stop in the Midwest and visit all your dumb friends. If I could stop.
No, because that would mean he'd have to go further north.
Okay, we're not being logical in the first place, Phil. So, if we're already driving all the way across the country, we might as well do it wrong.
I mean, when has doing things correctly stopped us in the past?
As Transformers collectors, we like to defy logic.
I will say, too, that as I've gone on vacation, and a lot of times we end up driving and whatever too, I managed to stop off at other TFYLP, people's houses along the way, right? Because everyone's kind of dispersed out a little bit in different areas. And so after this has happened multiple times now, my wife is like, how many TFYLP people do you guys know that you're stopping off at their house? Because I stopped off at Duran's house. I stopped at Christian's, stopped at Paul's. So there we go.
He's even stopped at my house before, since I live a whole 13 minutes away. It's real far, but as long as they do a couple rest stops on the way, they make it over.
Although I will say, I think Paul probably owns the record of visiting the TFYLP people, though, right?
Some people are travelers. Some people just like, they really get along with the concept of traveling and visiting people and butterflying socially. I am not one of those people.
No, not so much. Other than
I'm not one of those people that like travels places as part of my thing.
Mm-mm. Places come to me.
I was gonna say I capture Anna and force her to go along with me to these random places sometimes.
Takes jaws of life, basically. Very hard to pry me out of the house.
Yeah.
So real quickly about TFCon this year. This was my second year being at TFCon as part of the cast. And I had several people introduce themselves to me, and I appreciate you guys listening. And you know, it's one thing when you're just like a faceless name, you know, or maybe you're a listener who doesn't participate in the chat, but I'd prefer you weren't faceless. Like seeing your faces, I'm just disgusted now, and I can't unsee those things, no matter how much bleach I pour into my eyes. So, but thank you again for your support.
You were going to say something warm and fuzzy. I was all prepared to follow the warm and fuzzy. Then you made the asshole comment. You just ruined it.
You thought I was going to zig and I zag. No, but seriously, thank you for everyone who came up to us and said that you enjoy the show. I don't know if anyone came up to us and said that they hated the show. If you did, let us know, and we will ban you.
I had a couple people come up and say, "Oh, you two are podcasters." They didn't say anything like, "I love the show." They would just be like, "Oh, I know you two. You're podcasters."
Special thanks to the people who came up and said, "I know you two from Microcasters," while I was standing right there and was not recognized. That was great.
You're a recognizable dude. You got the red hair and the beard.
True story.
Yeah, I would say you stand out the most.
More famous ones.
But I know I stand out the most. So
you're not like me, where it's like every other dude has got a beard and a novelty T-shirt on and gray hair.
That last part was what qualified it, because it's like Christian has a beard. Not usually novelty T-shirts.
Almost never, yeah.
Usually dresses one step nicer than that.
The guy I was working the booth with, one of my friends that was next to me on Saturday, he doesn't have glasses and he didn't have a baseball cap on, but he has gray hair, a beard, and was wearing a black T-shirt. And I'm like, I had a baseball cap on and glasses was the only thing that differentiated the two of us.
For the listeners who are believing what Phil's saying, they look nothing alike.
Me and Rick look a little bit alike.
You do not.
I mean, as a descriptor, it's like, oh, go talk to the other guy down there with a beard and, a black T-shirt.
I was identifying people by T-shirt colors, which was really useless because everyone was wearing a gray T-shirt. So I was always like, oh, go down there and talk to the guy with a gray T-shirt. When I was trying to point out our friend who was selling stuff, and it's like, well, they could go anywhere. Every T-shirt is gray.
Serge had the pink Krusty the Clown sweatshirt. That was stand out.
There were some bright colors, and I like those better, but lots of gray. Yeah. Especially working boobs. Most people are gray.
It's slimming.
That's true. So.
Is it?
I don't know. Leave me alone.
Thanks.
I went to the gym tonight.
There you go.
Probably the only one. I did not.
I went to the gym Monday, and I swear, just like my sweat smelled like booze from the weekend. It's like, oh, I'm sweating out all the rum.
Oh.
So what do we start with? We kind of talked about the concept of road trips. We haven't really started talking about the convention.
I mean, I feel like the convention is the convention, right? At this point, it's always really fun. It's really good. The only thing I'll say about TFCon is I feel like it's almost too well ran. That there's never anything that like happens that's crazy. Like I hear all these like stories about BotCon and like, how there's like this issue or that issue or whatever, and TFCon, it's like they don't have those like fun things, It's like no one's car got booted. They had refreshments for people available. I mean, it's I don't know.
So there was one bit of drama I heard about that I don't know how to prevent it really, and that was Peter Cullen was there on Saturday, and the story is that when his flight arrived at the airport, fans saw him in the airport and approached him in pretty significant numbers. So I don't know how VIPs get around an airport like that, especially for a convention when you're going to have the convention attendees likely arriving at the same time.
Yeah, because we're not like Transformers conventions. They're not to the level that we have like legit security or anything, right? Because like real celebrities, actors and stuff, they can have a little bit of security and help with those type of things. But the best they would be able to do is send a few con staff to kind of be like, hey, don't mob him. It wouldn't work. I don't really think you could.
Well, and they couldn't like really intercept anyone until he got the baggage claim, unless you bought him a ticket just so they can get through the security gate.
Well, I mean, the thing is that the majority of the voice actors are not getting mobbed at the airport.
No.
I'm sure the, whatever, regular actors probably are. I think Cullen might be one of the few that, could potentially get mobbed or whatever. So.
Yeah, he's recognizable to people, which most of the voice actors, they're voice actors. You don't really know what they look like too terribly well.
Right.
But
So
Peter Cullen's
you are one of the people who mobbed. Don't do that. Shame on you. Don't do that again. No.
And I use the term mobbed loosely. If you saw him at the airport, you're like, oh my God, Mr. Cullen, hi, I love you as Optimus Prime. Like, so I've just heard like secondhand stories. I don't know how much it was like people coming up to him. So I don't know. That was the only blemish I heard about the weekend.
Well, he did bring a mob of people to the convention on Saturday. I mean, that was the greatest number of people I have ever seen in a dealer room at once.
So
there were lines like 4 hours long to get into the dealer room. It was crazy.
We're not showrunners, so we don't know the attendance numbers, but it felt like there was roughly 50,000 people in that room. Wow. It felt so. It's a joke, Lucas, I'm exaggerating intentionally.
There was no room to walk between the booths or the aisles or anything. You couldn't move. There's people wall to wall.
So I was trapped in our booth, right? Like Lucas and I were sharing a booth, and I was kind of like trapped in it for like the first 4 or 5 hours of Saturday. I never left it. When I eventually left it, I wanted to go back because every single booth was shoulder to shoulder. I'm not a huge fan of touching strangers, so I'm not really that big of a fan of like being shoulder to shoulder and having people like running into my butt and stuff while I'm trying to look at toys. And you could not move casually around that dealer's room on Saturday. Sunday was different. Sunday cleared out a little bit, but like Saturday was like they had a preview hour for the what the hell do you call the super pass that I had and didn't use? The gold pass, the extra pass,
the VIP pass.
Like VIP, there we go. The VIP pass that got in an hour early for shopping on Saturday. Like when that door opened, I felt like, wow, this is a big crowd. There's so many people here. There were 100 at that point because it's all they sold of the exclusive passes. And then when they let in the second group of people at 10, it was just phenomenal how many people were there. I have never, even being on the floor of like the big conventions, like the big anime conventions, I've never felt the dealer's room was so clogged as that one was. I think it's partially because, like Anime Central has their dealer's room in a gigantic space. Like that is a huge convention center space. It is massive. It would take a serious number of people to fill that thing. I think it's partially the space, but just like the attendance was just really strong.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of been the thing for TFCon. It just seems like it keeps, growing and growing. And so, we saw Baltimore last year was, the numbers were pretty big. Like people brought a lot of money, like just mobbed the dealer room on Saturday where people just were running out of stuff all day. And it was somewhat of a repeat of that. Just depending on the booth, like at this one, I think that there were still definitely some dealers that had stuff left on Sunday, but those, because I think some of the dealers kind of marked some of their things up, just so they wouldn't sell out of everything. But for the most part, I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, we both went home with, I want to say less than a 10th of the stuff I brought, but I think it's more like less than a 20th, less than a 30th. I brought hundreds of items and I came home with like 15.
Yeah,
crazy.
I was pretty much the same way. I think I came home with like under 10 of the stuff that I brought. But again, like,
I was left with a lot more than you guys.
Yeah,
but I
same
still
here.
sold about 2/3 about what I had.
I think you might have brought more than us though. Like just seeing the size of the boxes you had and knowing that we both fit in a normal size truck, that I think you might have outpacked us. But it's just it's phenomenal because when, like, I've sold at conventions and worked at conventions before where people would report afterwards, I didn't make very much money or I didn't have very good sales, or even I've gone to conventions and worked at them and the table I was working at didn't really do anything. The last few TF cons have not been that way at all. People have just been so excited to buy hundreds, if not thousands of dollars of transforming robot products. It's amazing just how hot the consumption is right now on Transformers. It's a good thing, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
So earlier, Catherine was asking how the Artist Alley was. So the thing I did like about that is they did put the Artist Alley in the same space as the main convention, which I know in some of the other TF cons, they've kind of had their own room. And honestly, I don't like that as much. So they did have it, like the vendor space was kind of like 2/3 of it or so, or 3/4, whatever. And then they had another third at the other end that was the Artist Alley. But it seemed like it was really good. It seems like that a lot of the usual suspects were there, and I always enjoy that because a lot of those artists are very talented and make good stuff, and so it's always good to see them and what they've, kind of the new things that they've done.
I remember when I used to work a lot of smaller anime cons out in St. Louis, we would have like the really almost professional artists, a couple of them, but then we would have a lot of people who are kind of like in the mid-range, like their art is getting better, but they're still obviously an amateur, obviously a beginner. I don't see that at Transformers cons. The art is always like phenomenal. Like some of the things people make are pretty simple, but they're very well done for their simplicity. So they're really cool.
Well,
and I was feel like finally able to get faction grains. I did.
Nice. Finally, I don't think I saw those when you had them.
Yeah, I got my Autobot and my Decepticon pair finally after all these years of fighting it. And I've already wanted to teach it because that's what they're for.
Very cool.
The question is whether or not your students will actually recognize that.
Honestly, from how far they sit away from me, they're probably just purple blobs.
Right.
You have to get close with your hairstyle until you point it out.
I hide them, until I do this. You can't really see them too well, so I doubt I'll get noticed that much. But if I do, it'll be fun because I don't care.
So the cosplay, there, I don't know if there was a ton of it. Like, would you say that there was about the same as normal, or is it a little bit less? I feel like it was just slightly less. Maybe I'm wrong.
It's something I don't notice. Like, it just blends into the background for me. I don't know why. Mm-hmm. I wish it didn't, because the people who do it put so much effort into it. But, like, I don't see it. I don't know why.
I don't think it was less. I think what it was about the same amount of people were cosplaying. It's just the attendance was so much higher than we're used to. Because it's like all of us have been to TF cons like 16, 17, and whatever that had much, things weren't as clogged back then. Back then you could easily see all the cosplays, right? Like a cosplayer walks through the dealer's room, everyone sees them because they're big and look cool. Couldn't see crap most of the time. So I think
I saw a blur that was really good. The animated or IDW type blur that stopped at your booth while I was there.
I saw her. That was cool.
She was good.
I saw more pictures of cosplayers online, like on Sunday after the show was over. And my take on it is likely, Anna, to your point, how packed the show floor was. If you're wearing full cosplay, like that would have been a pain in the tuchus to move around in there. So my guess is they were probably more in the hallway, like outside the convention hall, than they were on the show floor. At least with some of the folks that had the really big elaborate costumes. There was one cosplayer that I saw on Sunday, and I'm trying to remember who was the IDW villain. Wasn't in there a lot. I think it was like Whirl's arch nemesis has like almost like the radar antenna.
Killmaster.
Yes. There was a cosplayer dressed as Killmaster, and they had basically their helmet and face mask on and their gauntlets, but then dressed kind of normally beside that. But then they also had pure black contact lenses in. And I told the cosplayer, like, I am having a really hard time looking at you in the face and in the eyes, because this is just very disconcerting. Like, it's one thing to see like a character on a TV show or a movie and they've got black eyes, but to see, like, stand across like a table from a person whose eyes are like that, it's like, this is just unsettling. And
it's intense.
Yes, it's intense. And I thought like they were just going to look at me and just like, you don't need eyes to see where we're going. You know, just this very, very Event Horizon with the way that their costume was. It was a great looking costume, but it was like, it creeped me out. It creeped me out, which I think, again, says how good of a costume it was.
When you said Sunday and you mentioned the online pictures, I did remember that I saw a Minerva on Sunday that was a full build and very well done.
Yes. Yeah.
Also saw Rat Trap. Did you see Rat Trap? Rat Trap is so good. Oh my god, the Rat Trap is so good. Like the actual like robot armor parts were like the usual kind of like, I think probably like craft foam turned into the armor, but then the rat head was fuzzy. And it was great. Just an adorable fuzzy rat head on the chest. It was a really, really good costume. Like, and Rat Trap is more like you can do him with a human body, where a lot of Transformers, when you put them on your human body, they look kind of strange because they're not really built like we are. But Rat Trap's built a little more casually, so it worked really well.
So the Transformers colorist, his name is Josh Perez, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So
he's not the only one, but
he was there next to Alex Milne's table, correct? At Artist Alley. All right. Anyways, I'm 99% certain that the cosplayer who did the Rat Trap costume was hanging out at Josh Perez's booth on Sunday, not in costume, and they were drawing a picture of Cyborg Spider-Man on like a little 3x5, not even 3x5, but like a baseball card size piece of paper. And that was the time that my son was with me and we were walking around the show floor. And she gave it to my son, and it was awesome. And it was one of like the highlights of the show for me and him. So it was the first convention that my sons have ever been to. And my 2-year-old was obsessed with the Robosen display. And the 8-year-old kind of just walked around with me and we did some cool stuff. I can talk about that a little bit later. But yes, that cosplayer who was dressed as Rat Trap made my son's afternoon.
To mention that there was a really good Windblade. There was a really cool Windblade, and she shopped at my booth. And I referred to her as Windblade because I didn't know her name, but it worked pretty well. She responded to it. And there was also, Ron mentioned Macho Magnus. There was someone doing a combination of Macho Man Randy Savage and Ultra Magnus.
I don't know if you guys saw it, but there was a family dressed up as like the human characters for More Than Meets the Eye. Like when they transformed to like in that one.
Oh, cool.
Right? And with like Cyclonus and Tailgate and all that. So that might have been my I wish I would have gotten a picture of it. And I'm sure hopefully maybe someone did take a picture of them, but that was kind of one of my more favorite ones just because
that's
the whole
really
family
cool.
Like it's always fun to see families dressed up as cosplay.
I only remember seeing someone dressed as Whirl. I don't remember anyone else in those characters. So that's just what I recall.
They passed by me like in the hotel, like outside. So I don't know if they made it inside the convention hall or not. I'm not sure.
I saw someone Sunday as Armada Hotshot. That was pretty interesting. It was more like they wore more like a racetrack coveralls and a yellow helmet, and it worked. It wasn't like spot on one for one, but it worked very, very well. Like those colors pop really, really nicely. The yellow.
Yeah, it was a good helmet too.
Red. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I did see that person. That person was with Minerva when I saw her.
I definitely remember seeing them hanging out with other cosplayers. I don't remember who I saw them with. I don't think it was with Minerva that I saw them with, because Minerva would have overshadowed the hotshot costume.
Exactly why I didn't remember until you mentioned.
Yeah.
So, did you guys end up going to any panels while you were there?
Nope.
I saw maybe about 3 minutes of each of Rick's panels. That was about it.
Yeah,
I saw.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I went to both of Rick's panels, so that was pretty fun. I felt like he did a pretty good job of getting through them and being lively and whatnot.
He had really good turnout at his panels too.
Yeah.
Like, obviously his panels were really well received. He did one panel, since people don't know what he did panels on, he did one panel on rarities among branded merchandise, and they did another panel on never before seen prototypes and stuff from when he worked at Hasbro. Both were really well attended. I think people liked them.
Yep.
Yeah, Rick has got a very, gregarious personality, so that suits well for that kind of live work.
Right. Yeah, no, I enjoyed seeing his panel versus a lot of times they'll do a couple of podcasting panels like at the very beginning and the very end. And it's almost too much to have like 2 hour-and-a-half long panels about, Transformers podcasting, especially when a lot of us are listening to, podcasts or doing podcasts in the meantime. So... But so yeah,
I personally can't stand Transformers podcasters.
They're just the worst.
They're really abrasive people, I know.
Yeah. Say such mean things.
Constantly. So there was that cool panel on the first night. The last panel of the night that went really long.
Oh yeah, I guess we went to that one too. I kind of forgot about that one. So there's one where Jim Sorensen and Ron Friedman did a panel about the differences between the first draft of the Transformers movie and the final draft, and that was somewhat interesting. With it, I think that they weren't quite on the same page. I really want, now that I've seen that panel, I want to go back and watch Sorensen and Chris McFeely's panel that they did at TF Nation to, kind of see that one as well.
Yeah, I feel like it was a fun panel. Like, a lot of the things they talked about, we've already seen, as the super fans, as the crazies who, when we saw that script get leaked and when we saw all the discussion about it and all the different panels hosted about it, we watched those and we heard about all that and we knew those details and we knew about the transforming snake train and all that stuff. But for the people who don't go quite that deep, who are in the audience, they seem genuinely enthralled, especially by the stories that Ron Friedman could tell about all of that. It was fun. I think it was a good time. It went really long. I think that panel went for roughly 2 years.
Well, it was one of those things where I think it was like an hour and 15 minutes in, and Jim goes, "All right, now we're done with part 1 of 5." And you could just hear everyone kind of be like just groan, and so people start getting up because they're like, "Wait a minute, how long is this gonna go?" So, but it was very interesting, but at the same time, you're like, okay, I don't know if I have, I need to get to dinner. I need to do other things,
Because if you've never been to TFCon, it's preview night, basically. It's kind of like a first night that doesn't start until 6-ish, but a lot of people will wait to get dinner until the end of the programming for the day. So, you go to your exclusives thing. If you have the special ticket, you get your registration done. There's a couple panels, and that panel started at 8 and went until who knows how late, because we actually left at 9:20. After it had gone for 80 minutes. Didn't see any sign of stopping.
I think the other thing was
they're still there right now.
With that kind of Friday panel too, is Friday's travel day for most folks. So people are tired from, if you're working the show floor, you were setting up a booth, if you flew in or drove in that day, it's like, you just spent so many hours in a car or in a plane, and it's like, yeah, I'm pooped. And it's also like, this is the first day where you're seeing friends that you might not have seen for a year, if not longer, because of COVID. So yeah, that's just like, all right, this is cool. Let's go do something else.
Yeah, there's also that attention span thing, right? Like as a teacher, I think about this a lot, just like how long can I lecture on one topic before I need to do something to get everyone's attention back in focus? And a panel that goes over an hour, upwards of 2 hours, can get really, even if you love the stuff, even if you really care about it, it's hard to continue paying attention to the same thing for that long. Just tricky.
So let me pause on that and like take a tangent off of this, is to one of the things, Anna, you were just talking about, which was the idea that we've all seen this stuff, but there were people at the show who hadn't. And that's one of the kind of the eye-opening things for me of just being at a convention. Obviously, people who are at a Transformers convention are going to be pretty big Transformers fans, but they're not as immersed in it as like even, the four of us are, let alone like someone like Peter. And so it's just like working at my booth over the weekend, people were like, oh, what's this? Like I had some neat kind of unusual things. I had a complete Thunder Mayhem set. I had a San Diego Comic-Con Shockwave Hiss Tank, which to me is like, yeah, of course they did a Shockwave Hiss Tank. Duh, it comes with Destro and a Cobra Bat as Constructicon colors. Like, yeah, Thunder Mayhem, how do you not know who he is? But like, just like people were like, oh, that's neat. Who's that? And it was like, I had to explain that to people multiple times. I had a Cloud Shockwave at my booth, which is a repaint of Whirl. And again, that was like, oh, who's that? What's that from? And just like explaining what Cloud toys are and how awesome they are and how I have one that Lucas doesn't. These are all things that just like, it is kind of eye-opening. Like, oh yeah, there's a lot of different levels of Transformers collectors besides just like the hardest.
I really had to convince Lucas not to murder you for that thing. He texted me about it, I don't know, late Saturday night or something. He was like, I just found out Phil got this and not me. Lucas has been like hounding after that toy for 2 years.
It's nice. I'm not trying to be an a-hole. It's really nice.
No, it's one of those things where it's like, man, I just want to find it for a decent price. And Orson from Captured Prey always like just has like crazy prices. So like if you could like get his booth first and get some of his stuff at like the pick of the litter or whatever, like I mean you're doing pretty good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I got this Friday night before the show floor opened for everyone, and I was like, oh, he's got it in the box. I saw he had sent out a list of some friends of his, and I saw it on the list. I was like, I don't know. And then I saw the box and like, I'm gonna get it.
As Paul said, it's my own fault for snoozing on it. So
I mean, yeah, if you were by his booth and you saw it, so I don't know. I was lucky that I got there at a time where he had most of his booth set up. So yeah.
What surprised me, Phil mentioned the whole like, people not being as immersed and not as like knowledgeable about all the little things as we are. Just people not being as familiar with prices as I am. Like people seem to be very surprised by prices being low or high, but I'm always very aware of what the things I cost or what the things I want cost and what the rough values are and what the ranges are. The things I'm selling, I've always looked over the ranges and have an idea. I know general values. I know what's expensive and what's not expensive. And I feel like a lot of the fans there just don't know that because they don't spend as much time insanely immersed in Transformers as I do.
Well,
you mean they don't do a weekly podcast on Transformers with their friends?
Weekly, or like tri-weekly, 3-weekly, thrice weekly? Many times.
Bi-weekly for most of us.
A little bit. But I don't know. I feel like a lot of times, even though we're somewhat immersed in it, a lot of times, like when I go on the floor, there might be something that just catches my eye that I hadn't really thought about in a while. And I'm sitting there scrambling to be like, all right, is this a good price? Is that, and you're just sitting there checking eBay listings and whatever, trying to figure out, what's a good price for XYZ figure. And I think for some of us too, that we're so used to some of the older prices. Like, you've been to these conventions for a number of years, and so like you remember however many years ago when some of this stuff was priced a lot cheaper than what it is now, just because all the collectibles have went up in value, you know, for the most part. So you're like, I remember when I spent a nickel on this. So.
That's one of my favorite parts about the dealer's room is when I do run into things I don't know about, though. Because there are still things I don't know about. There are still figures from various Transformers lines that I'm just not aware of. You know, variants I'm not aware of, individual figures I'm not aware of. And there was a person who had like a really good stock of G1-ish stuff. And he had a few really cool looking knockoffs. And I started just engaging him about the knockoffs. And then he started pulling out these like bizarro world knockoffs of G1 stuff. And this is all like, you know, stuff that's actually from the 80s. So we're talking 3-digit prices. So a little bit out of my comfort zone in my knockoff exploration so far. But it was just really cool to just like have him pull out these things. I've never seen them. I've never heard of them. And they're valuable. And I never knew. It was cool to me. I was so happy.
So the thing that you always want to do if you're not sure about something when you're at the show is to grab yourself a Destron and to have him help you out with that, because he's very handy about this. This has happened to me in the past where I, you know, decided to get into, you know, buy some GoBots and Machine Robo. Have you ever, you know, checked it out? I think at this point he's collected most of that. And so I've had that where I, you know, ask him questions and he says, oh, well, yeah. So like, you know, XYZ figure, like you have to watch out for this, or you know, this figure has a knockoff and you have to look at the like stamp on this to, you know, that it may be like, if you look at this or that or whatever, and the knockoff is worth about this, the regular version is worth about this, you know. So yeah, Destron is always the go-to resource for me at the convention.
We should raise money for the podcast next year by renting out Peter for like an hour at a time.
Right.
Rent out a Transformers expert to help you with your shopping.
Well,
That
and in
would be
fact,
really funny.
Control Mage said that they think the best part of Rick's panel on Friday was that he managed to rope Peter into doing it at the last minute. So yeah, I should have actually said it was actually Peter's panel, not Rick's panel, right? Because
speaking of Transformers experts, Paul is asked to join us, Lucas.
oh, was that what it was? Okay, here, let me go and add him.
Expert. That's a pretty.
Aficionado.
There we go. Okay.
A Starscream expert. He would be a Starscream expert.
Starscream expert. Yeah. We'd have to stop talking just because he's joining. We can keep talking.
I think we should be silent to make it seem like we were just talking about him and make him feel awkward.
It's already too late for that. He's here. I don't think
Glad we
he's on
brought
video
you
yet.
on.
He put up a thumb.
Yeah.
You're looking like you're doing pretty good there, Paul. So luckily, after that long drive home from TFCon, right?
I'm all packed up, but everything's back in its right place, just like Radiohead.
There you go.
Man, that was so nice. Like, unpacking was so easy when I got home because I didn't bring home very much stuff.
Because it was just
awesome.
your clothes.
It was like I took all my. It was more finding spaces for the empty bins that no longer had toys in them, and then my one bin that had my leftovers was like, there we go, back in the garage. Woo! Now I'm done.
The only thing I'm disappointed about is I like sold all of my good stuff, and I was left with the crap. And I was like there was several figures. I was like, oh, well, if I don't sell this, like I won't feel too bad, you know, right? But I was left with like just this junk that I'm like, gosh darn it, like this stuff's never gonna sell, is it?
Like your toy collector level actually went down from the stuff you sold.
Yeah,
Lucas,
rough.
I didn't even get over to your table to see what you had for sale, and like you were probably a good like 12 feet behind me most of the convention.
Right.
12? Like 36.
We were buried under people for all of Saturday.
Yeah.
Well,
And then all our
it was
stuff is gone.
It was more where Paul was like, "Hey, can you watch my booth?" So we had to go over to your guys' side, but
Yeah.
didn't
Good
make
side
it
of the
over to our
tracks.
side.
I used Peter as my booth babe when I needed a bathroom break.
I got to tell you, TFCon always puts me like right after the Chosen Prime. So that like, no, I'm not the first booth you see, but I am the second, and it's great. It's been that way a few times, and I gotta say, thank you, TFCon, for that.
You were in a good spot, and I think basically since your booth was so long, people just meandered into our booth afterwards and thought of us as an add-on, which worked out for us.
Yeah, if it hasn't been said, Phil and I and another guy, like I bought the tables, but the goal was like, hey, let's all sell. And like you can buy, instead of us each getting our own individual tables and being all over the place, we get to consolidate space and have more fun and be near each other.
You guys had a pretty good island.
I think that actually helped really well though, because we basically had like your booths and then curved around the corner to me and Lucas's booth and then our friend Aaron's booth. And we were all like, we all knew each other. And we all had kind of a similar like selling style and conversation style and everything. So I think that worked out well.
Yeah, it was actually pretty great.
I was going to say, and then the other side was Orson, who was also happened to be selling some of Christian stuff and Rob's stuff. And I guess Serge was he selling stuff to you? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, so so pretty much we took up like half the vending space, I guess, at TFCon this year.
Rick was kind of on his own island, is like he was the only one sort of just by himself over on his side, but he had a really gorgeous setup.
He did. He was running the cusp of dealer and artist since he was selling framed art.
That's true.
So,
yeah. He was right there on the border between Artist Alley and the main vendor space.
I guess that's one interesting thing we can all say about our TFCon experience. I think this goes for the five of us. I think like almost all the cast sold more than we bought. Like we all came home with things, but we actually were more part of the selling than the buying this year.
This is the only thing I bought, and I regret it.
And
seriously?
It's like third
the only two
Legends crap.
That's it. Yeah.
Paul's just gonna start getting into that.
Only thing else I bought was like a Coke and a sandwich and a beer.
I'll give you $20 to send those to me, Paul. I'll put them in a good home.
90, please.
20.
Plus shipping, because that's what it costs.
Plus shipping? Ew. You're charging me shipping? Your BFF Anna? Jeez.
Yeah, because yes.
My heart's broken. In half.
It probably, I mean, they're so small, I could maybe make that go first class. They're so little and worthless. They don't even have much weight to them. I thought, so I've sold at the last 3 TF cons I've been to. And that's a new experience. Maybe 4. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you're right, Phil. Yeah, something like that.
You had stuff at mine and Serge's table 4 years back.
And that was my test run. That was like where I was like, yeah, let's see what this is like. And I really appreciate you allowing me to do that. That was very nice of you. I wouldn't have done it. But that was great. And so I now have a different, I look at it all through a different lens than I used to. This is, again, more Transformer maximalism, towards late stage Transformerism, whatever you want to call it. I've gone through all the hoops. Now I'm at the dealer stage. Okay. The next step is like running a convention or working at Hasbro. Like what's next? I don't know.
Or running a third party company.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah.
I actually know someone if you want to help run a convention.
See, you're already there.
I know, right?
But I mean, it's just different when you're not just a fan there. Like you see the same people, but now you see them as customers or potential customers versus just dude I avoid or don't like, or dude I do like, or girl that I've talked to before and I recognize her. It's like it's a different story. And do people recognize you now that you're behind the booth? Do they like, oh, don't talk to that guy? Oh, I got a good deal from this guy last year. Like, I don't know. It's a weird like it's a weird change. And so since all of us were doing it, do you get what I mean? And can you describe it in a way better than I can here?
No, because we were traveling like a pack of dealers, right? When we all hung out together at the end of the day, it looked like a group of the dealers were people hanging out, a bunch of vendors hanging out. You don't think of it as just fans hanging out, even though we're all like fanning out over something. You know, I'm talking endlessly about why it's okay that I bought a Kiss Players toy and I'm not a terrible person. And, you know, all the same stuff we've always done, but now to other people we look a little odd. Because I know one of the things I really thought about a lot is everyone who recognized me from the show, I feel like I didn't get to have a good conversation with them. Like, I feel like it was just kind of like recognition. Hey, it's really cool to meet you, and then move on instead of like chatting like we normally would. And it was kind of a bummer because it's like, I like to talk to everyone. I talk a lot at conventions and everywhere else.
You're like, hey, if you want me to keep talking to you, you better show the dollar bills over there, right?
Yeah, right.
Kind of how you ranked how much you like people now, Paul. You're like, oh, well, this guy was annoying, but then he pulled his sack of cash out and he got less annoying.
Listen, I'm going to be honest. Dealing with a lot of, especially trans fan customers at a convention, can be very annoying. And when they complete that sale, it's like suddenly like they're not annoying anymore. You're like, oh, and now you know, how was your date? How's your date? Like, tell me, you know, like suddenly I want to talk to them. And I know that's weird and shallow and shit, but that's just how I'd rather talk to the person that bought something from me than the person that comes up and says, I have that toy. Do you want to know what other toys I have? I have this one and this one and this one and this one. And I'm like, you're talking to the wrong dude.
We've all talked to that guy.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's always weird when you talk to that guy.
And then there's some people you just sort of like, yeah, I know I'm going to have a 10-minute conversation with you because I've done it a few years in a row. And then it's nice to say like, hey, like you actually remember people that made big sales, right. But you don't like, it's like you don't remember till you're back in the saddle and you're like, oh, you're the person that bought that thing. Oh yeah, hey, and, you know, I know it sounds shallow, but when your goal is making money, you interact with people differently and you like stratify them different.
I don't know. For me, it's always interesting because a lot of times when I'm selling stuff there, it's, you know, I'm selling a lot of stuff that's a few years old. And I know, Paul, like you sell some of the newer stuff, you know, yourself, but like it always like kind of like I always enjoy talking to people where they get really excited because they're like, oh man, I've been looking for, you know, this figure, that figure, and you have it and you have it at a great price. And just being able to, you know, give them that experience of kind of completing whatever collection. But I ended up selling off a lot of my MMC stuff. And, you know, some of the people that were like, oh, I'm just looking for this, that, and whatever was fun for me.
So I want to kind of, because we've been going like 50 minutes and we've basically just been having a like former dealers roundtable where we talked about the life of dealing at a convention. Sounds like drug dealing, but we're actually talking about Transformers dealing. Anyway, I want to kind of steer us towards like other cool things about being at the convention, and that's one of those things like I did notice this as a dealer, but just as a shopper as well. Like when we're in our little circle, right? Like especially when I am doing microcasters with Christian and Lucas, I have a lot of Transformers interests that they just completely don't like. I send them pictures of my newest Legends figure and they don't say anything in the chat, right? Like I don't hear anything back. It's been like 2 months and I never hear anything. But at a convention like this, like every Transformers sub-brand, type, personality, all of it is appreciated by someone, right? Like there were many big fans of the Bayverse figures. There were many big Legends collectors. There were multiple people looking for freaking Kiss Players. There were lots of people who have started collecting Action Masters. I had a lot of competition looking at Action Masters around the convention. And those are a lot of things. Like freaking KOs. There were so many people who knew as much about KOs as I do. Like, that's something that we kind of miss sometimes, not being around, like, everyone in the fandom, as we just feel like certain things, like, aren't appreciated, or I'm the only one who likes this, or things like that. That's a really cool thing about the con, is you just get to see everybody loving everything, right? Like such a positive reaction. You always have that person who just, their favorite figure in the world is something bizarre that you don't like that much, but they sure do love it.
I had one girl come up and ask me point blank, like, why doesn't anyone have any Cyberverse stuff? And I had to kind of explain to her, like, the dealers don't care about it. Like, they don't think anyone wants it, which I know is not true. I just didn't bother bringing of it, but I had to kind of explain to her, like, it's a taste that doesn't match with the minds that are selling stuff. No one's gonna waste their time selling.
But I
Only
do
about,
feel
like,
What are you gonna
$4
make on a
total.
Cyber Store? $20 total? You know?
I do feel like, though, as a dealer, you almost have to kind of think about that. And I know, Paul, you've like asked that of me before, where you're like, what should I bring that no one else is gonna have? Because if you bring the exact same junk that like every other dealer has, like, you're not gonna sell it. Whereas like if you're the only one with Cyberverse, you're gonna like, you know, because I think you probably had that with some of the core class figures, right? Like I didn't see a lot of other dealers having that, and you were telling me how you're just like selling through those things.
That's because no one has the balls to sell them for $25, but I do. So, yeah, Lucas, that's a good one. Who sold a Black Zarek at TFCon? You did? You actually did?
It's the only Titan I sold.
Wow. Everyone had a Black Zarek.
Yeah.
Everyone.
I think everyone had an arc too.
I didn't see as many of those, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
That is one thing I sold a lot of, and I know, Anna, you were trying to steer us away from this, so I'm not trying to last thing I'm going to say about it. I sold a lot of premium finish, because I don't think anyone had that. Mm-hmm. And I was selling it really reasonable. So that's what I went with, Lucas, to try to.
So I had maybe a dozen of these kind of pieces that I didn't sell any of them, and I don't know, from just talking anecdotally to a few other people on the floor, they didn't sell many of them either. And that was anything in this packaging. The black and white Gen Selects or MP packaging, like, get rid of this, Takara. Like, this whole TTGS04.
That's
Hasbro. Yeah, it's Hasbro
stuff.
Like, this is horrible. Like, so many people were coming up to me like, what is that? What is MP52 SW Plus?
Can confirm. I was selling a Blue Streak that was that way.
Well, that's
if you're trying to sell it stuff and you actually have it loose or open and you put it back in the box so it's more valuable, I honestly find that it's better to just take it out and stand it on top of the box or in front of the box so they can see the figure. And I think this is why there's this whole concept in sales of floor models, right? Like, if you were selling a bunch of those and you had a floor model, which was, yours to mess with, but also just the one to sit there, then they actually know what the hell is in that black box that says letters, numbers.
And that's exactly how I sold the PF toys. Because I was selling the ones that came in the black box, and I opened up the black box and put the thing in front of it. And when someone bought it, I gave them the black box one, and they're like, "Whoa, that's not what I bought." And I'm like, "Yeah, it is. Just take it. Just take it."
Yeah.
Well, I feel like I actually sold some of my loose stuff figures before I sold the boxed ones. And there's probably something about that, Anna, like you said, that when you actually see the figure like in front of you, it's more dynamic than if you're just like looking at a box.
Yeah, like there's just a lot of the boxes that don't really tell that much of a story, and when you actually see the figure standing there, the first thing people will see when they see a lot of those is, "I did not realize how big that was," or "I did not realize how detailed that was," or "Wow, that looks really cool in 3D for the first time." And it really does kind of help with that sort of thing, which is part of the fun of meandering around a con, is you get to see all the things that you personally have never played with.
That's an interesting point, Anna, because one of the other things that took place last week was a call with Hasbro and a bunch of Transformers websites. And one of the things that was asked about is, will Transformers go the route of Black Series or Marvel Legends and have no window in the box and just completely picture on the box? And Hasbro said no. Hasbro said that the engagement pattern from kids especially is with the Transformers, they want to see it in that box. Hence why with the new Legacy toys that we're getting, they have that like Han Solo and Carbonite kind of like, stuck inside that packaging sort of thing. But you can still see the head and upper torso of those toys, which they said is important for Transformers buyers.
Christian, you were about to say something a little earlier.
It's not.
Oh.
Well,
did
I
you
did
guys
see
talk about Optimus Prime being there.
What now?
Did you guys talk about Optimus Prime?
We talked about Colin, yeah.
Flesh?
A little bit. I
Truck.
don't know if we.
The truck?
The truck.
Oh,
yeah, the outside truck.
Truck was shiny.
I didn't go outside. Outside sounded icky.
Yeah, it was poorly placed, but cool to see when I did see it.
Yeah, it was right by the dumpsters.
Oh, there you
Yeah,
go.
I think that venue is. I think TFCon needs to be done with that venue going forward. It's outgrown it.
I don't know. I mean, I like the venue. I do think, yes, they probably need a larger space than what they have right now.
They also need
it's
someplace
funny
that has.
they use
they
the
closed
high.
the pizza thing. They closed the bar thing. The restaurant closed early each night. Things weren't easy to get to. Like, it's just little quality of life things that would be improved at other places.
So I remember back in 2016, they used the Hyatt Regency, which is the same as the main hotel for Enemy Central. And that was just like, at the time in 2016, that was too big of a venue for TFCon. But now I think as much as it has grown in the last few years, I think it's time to kind of go back to that one. Not the Donald Lee Stevens Convention Center. We don't need that yet, but the actual Hyatt Regency would be a better fit. It's just a bigger hotel made for bigger gatherings, basically.
It's
nicer. A more expensive hotel.
I mean, I will say it's probably better in their respect to sell out the smaller space than to not sell enough of the bigger space, if that makes sense. Like that's, I'm sure, probably part of the math that goes into, what they're doing is that are they going to, utilize all the space? Because all that costs money,
One of the things that I'm... Sorry, Anna, go ahead.
I was just going to say, don't take us wrong here. Like, the convention space this year, the hotel this year is a nice hotel. It is a nice space. It is well run. I like it quite a lot. I've been to much, much worse hotels for conventions before, where the hotel has actually hurt the convention. I would say the only thing about this hotel that could possibly hurt the convention is just it's a little bit too small in the gathering spaces. But like it's a good place. It's just TFCon probably needs to move up again, size-wise at least.
Baltimore is a nicer venue. So coming from Baltimore last year to this year, feels like a little bit of a step back from a lot of aspects. Baltimore is nicer,
except for loading in.
Well, yeah. One of the things that I would recommend to them is I don't know how much space the rooms downstairs hold, but to maybe move the panels to some of the downstairs rooms where they had either staging for signings or signings going on, and then extend the dealer room into where the panel is at, because that's like I'm assuming you can take down that wall and continue going because they look like they're connected
you
next to each other.
The only issue, I don't know if the space downstairs, is there a room that big for panels? Because they really needed that, especially for Cullen. Like, they really, like we were packing people in for the Cullen panel and like having people move down, and it was 100% like, packed for that specific panel. And I will say, like, I went to the Cullen panel, and that was honestly my favorite thing about it is just the energy from the room. Like, there was so many people in there, and like everyone was so excited to see him. And so like he got a standing ovation like at the very beginning of the panel, and like honestly he just started tearing up by the reaction, because I'm sure he's went to a million of these conventions and all that, but like he's just not going to get the same reaction, even though it may be positive at a regular Comic-Con as he is like at TFCon.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess we've already been at it for an hour, and we said that we would try to also talk about like hauls and things we got and things we saw. Do we want to shift that direction?
So yeah, kind of piggybacking on what Christian said, one of the things I did get was an autograph from Peter Cullen, and that was a cool experience. So that was nice. It was a short, they kept you moving, unfortunately, but it was a cool experience to get his autograph.
Yes, Christian, that was completely detached from
I'm
anything
sorry.
you said.
What
Watch up Lucas's and Christian's name
nothing.
far more often than I'd like. I don't know why, but Lucas and I both got his autograph, and piggybacking on what Lucas was saying.
Yeah, the line was crazy long. Phil, you did the right thing where you kind of waited for a while to get in line. So like, kind of you hit the very tail end of it. But if you're like at the very beginning or middle, like you're waiting a decent chunk for his autograph.
Yeah, it was. And that's like a treasure that won't be around forever, right? Like he's getting older, so getting an autograph from him, if you're an autograph person, is a big deal. So it's really cool that you guys got them. Yeah. I'm not an autograph person, so
Me either.
So Control Mage was asking about who went to the wildest parts party. And I'm a little disappointed. A couple of the ones that I heard, I know earlier Zeldron had mentioned that David K, I guess, got upset because there was a parts party next to him, and people were being a little bit loud.
Oh yeah. I got yelled at in the hallway for being too loud there.
Yeah, I had not heard that story. That's interesting. I'm curious at what party that was.
He was probably just trying to sleep. Like legitimately, It was like 11 o'clock. He was probably trying to sleep so he could be doing his job the next day. But that was actually.
Which one was that? Wasn't it?
Was that the 7th floor where they had the role play party going on?
I think it was 5. I think it was
5.
Over by Paul and his neighbor.
Well, it wasn't me because my parts party was not very hopping.
I think it was hallway people. I think it was loud talkers in the hallway. Me and one of our friends were both talking at full volume when we went down the hall, and we get yelled at. But maybe we deserved it.
It turns out, find the real culprit.
I'm a little loud sometimes.
Was it by hotel staff or someone just stuck their head out of the room and said, "Shut up"?
It was someone wearing a TFCon shirt. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they were posted outside Kay's room.
I felt bad for the poor guy because he just looked so like stressed, right? Because he had to be telling people to be quiet, he's being pressured, but then people were having fun, and that's the whole goal of the convention. I just felt bad for him because he had to do that. It's like
I feel like
as
convention management, you should probably stick talent away from the block of rooms that you sold for the convention. Yeah.
So something I have to say about all that we're talking about is we started talking about parts parties, and we didn't see what the hell that was. When I went to TFCon 16 and people started talking about parts parties, I was terrified. I didn't know what was going on. What are you talking about? What the hell is a parts party? So that's generally what people call room cells. I think initially, the idea was to, go to the room and try to find parts to complete figures. Back when one of the main things to do in Transformers fandom was try to complete G1 figures. But it's kind of just evolved into this general term for anyone who is selling toys out of their rooms. And this isn't something that happens at normal conventions. This is a Transformers convention thing where people actually have their weird room cells. They actually have a board downstairs by the registration area where everyone can post.
I think it's more of a toy show thing.
Probably. I've never gone to any other toy conventions. Just Transformers.
Just because at Kane County Toy Fest, like the hotel parties are kind of like the main event more so than the whole thing. So
I feel like back in 16, the room parties, the room cells, whatever, were still more of the main event. But then when you think about it, like out of those who are here, at least more than half of us are not actually toy retailers, right? Like Lucas and I are 2 fans who were selling our extra stuff. We weren't selling out of our room. We had a legitimate table. And I feel like since that's become more of the norm for the fans who have too much to just buy their own tables, the room parties have kind of they lost a little luster. Used to
Well,
be more lustrous.
I think COVID kind of killed that too. Like people are not like wanting to go into people's hotel rooms, and people don't want people coming into their hotel rooms. So I think it'll take. The world is still healing as far as that goes, but it does seem a lot less wild than it was the year that there was a rave in Amber's room that was just incredible. Like I don't know, that was peak TFCon for me. When
was it 19? I think that was 19.
That was in DC.
Yeah.
And that was awesome. Wild. I was like, hey, I'm on a podcast with you and you're making me a drink. Is this your room? Holy cow. There's Aaron Archer. What's going on?
There was a room with the bartender this year.
Yeah. We didn't go to the fanfic room.
Yeah, it was the fanfic room.
Apparently the fanfic room had a bartender.
They cut it off
fanfic party
after a while.
Yeah.
Like no more people allowed.
That must have been.
It was an 18 plus fanfic and drinking.
I was standing outside the fanfic room looking at their bar menu when the hotel manager came up, and like I couldn't even get in the room because it was so packed. And the hotel manager came up off the elevator with like, you know, a security person or something like, yeah, I'm the hotel manager. You guys need to clear out. This is I'm like, I'm walking away.
So one thing I will say, this specific venue, I think had the same issue the last time they had TFCon as well, where they're breaking up room parties. Like I feel like the other hotels, like I haven't really seen that happen, but this one, I remember, I think the Realm of Collectors last time had a big party and they like broke it up. So
that's a normal convention thing, though. People get too rowdy, having too much fun, and the hotel has to yell at them.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen it at the other TFCons is what I'm saying. So
I've seen it a lot of anime cons, but not selling things, but just having parties. Loud, wild parties.
Yeah, it's a little different when you have like this like really loud party versus you have a handful of people in your room selling toys. So
it's just like the people with like the toys laid out on their bed. You know, it's just there's an awkwardness to some of the room sales sometimes.
And there is, and that's kind of like the one reason, even though the room sales are a culture, and like I still want to get together with everybody and go to all the room sales at the end of the evening, but honestly, like someone's room with 2 beds fills up really fast. If 5 of us are traveling together and there's already 2 people shopping in there, the moment we walk in that room, I'm uncomfortable because there's too many people and it's hard to look around and people are touching the stuff I want to get, and it's very frustrating. I was in one room and there was a lot of stuff I wanted to look at and someone just kept grabbing everything I was looking at. And that just made it much harder for me to relax.
It's never going to be as perfect and amazing as my setup in Baltimore. That was just so unreal.
That was intense.
And you know what's sad about it is that I think I did worse in the room sales that year than I did the previous year in Reston, which was just a regular room.
You had some remarkable stuff in Reston, though. Like, you had some things other people didn't have. Yeah.
That's true, because on the way, I found all those. That was when, you know, the anime Optimus and Megatron and Sound Blaster and Blue Streak were showing up. I found those in like Pennsylvania on the way there, and I was the only person that had that. So I think you're right. I think it had to do a lot with the stuff I had. But I guess what I'm saying is my room sales, like I started with my high was the first hit I ever got, and it's been dwindling since. So I don't know if I'm going to bother doing it again because I don't know. It's like if I follow my instincts, it's like, hey, don't bother because it's room selling isn't really working. But the year that I don't do it will be the year that it comes back, and like I'll be like, God, why didn't I do it? Like, why didn't I get an extra room or something? And be really sad.
My thing is like once the show floor closes, like, all right, I'm also here to see friends and hang out with friends. So I'm gonna bounce around and see my friends and hang out and consume large amounts of alcohol and food that's unhealthy for me.
And my goal is to go shopping with friends, so I kind of do it in the middle.
Yeah.
I try to do it all.
I guess as I was trying to push this in this direction earlier, what is the most surprising thing you found, whether or not you ended up buying it or not, the most surprising thing that you found there? You want to go first, Christian? I'm going to go first, but you can take the reins, sir.
I want to ask the four of you to not mention the thing that I bought.
Oh,
because it's not here, and I want to show it off. So don't tell anyone yet.
Yes, it's a secret.
Thank you.
I knew.
I don't even think I know.
Anna's trying to tee it up. She's trying to get someone to discuss it.
No, I'm going to do it first. I'm going to talk about what I found, and y'all can say nothing because I just want to talk about it.
Can I pause, Anna, before you do that? So something that I didn't buy and I didn't find, but something that did surprise me at the show was the table for Robeson. That was a cool setup and cool display they had.
Oh, and no flame toys.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised about that.
Because I'm used to Flame Toys being the big, impressive booth, but instead it was Robeson this year. I just now realized that Flame Toys didn't have a presence. There were model kits. Some people sold the models and stuff and their items, but they weren't there themselves. Yeah. The other thing I was surprised that wasn't there was newer stuff. So, like, I think there was some newer, like, Hasbro and Takara stuff. But, like, it felt like the last 3 to 4 months of third-party figures were missing. Like, there was a lot of things that had come out recently. Like, the new Dr. Wu cassettes. I planned to pick those up there because they just put out their second Combiner cassettes. And I was like, oh, I'll just wait till TFCon to get those because they came out, like, a month or two ago. Not there. That cool third-party Windblade figure everybody's been talking about by Bingo Toys. Not there. So many of the newer things that I was expecting to see in the third-party world just they didn't make it. They didn't make it in time. So it's a little sad not to see the new stuff there in third-party. Again, I think most of the newer stuff, like Minerva was there, even though Minerva is just now trickling out into reality in some dimensions. There were a couple booths selling $50 Minervas.
Most of those, the dealers, right? Like, they can sell all that new stuff online. They don't need the convention for that. They want to get rid of the old crap that they've had sitting around, you know?
I mean, that's true, but bringing it still gets people to come to your booth. Like, having the coolest and newest thing still gets interest and gets people to walk over.
Yeah, I mean, I would have had the most popular booth at the convention if I would have gotten my shipment that's late from EE. Because I would have been the only a-hole there with bomb bursts, and I would have brought them all. I didn't see a single one on the floor. And even though that's a stupid little thing, that is like the newest thing that's out. As of the time of TFCon.
I had the Megatron Hiss tank and didn't get a ton of interest in that.
That's because it sucks. I mean, that's
real
This
easy answer
is a Transformers
there.
show, not a snake terrorist show.
Yeah,
but it's not even that, Christian. If it was good, it would sell.
Yeah, it sucks.
But then I think that speaks to how much it sucks because a lot of times, new sells, no matter how good or bad it is, first time seeing it, crap, I gotta buy it now.
I agree 100%. Yes, when new things are there, people get excited. People buy them just because they're new. The Hiss Tank Megatron is something people have heard about how bad it is. You know, not only do the pictures kind of betray the mediocrity of the figure, but every early review was like, hey, I can't recommend this. It's hollow, it's messy, it's not good. So it's a bummer because I want to own it. I still love the concept. I wish I could own it, but I won't let myself spend that much money on something that is that.
Yeah.
It is a compliment, too.
I think I don't even want to know how many of those I put on order, but it's too many.
You'll move on. There's people who do want that in their collection. I love the idea of having my G.I. Joes play with my Transformers.
I mean, your best bet is that G.I. Joe fans want it as a Hiss tank for their figures for some reason.
Yeah, but then G.I. Joe fans are insulted because the Baroness toy looks god-awful.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't, though. If you're a G.I. Joe collector, you like the old-style figures because it just looks like the original.
Yeah, they were too slavish to the original stuff, in my opinion.
Yeah, and
Four
that's the
choices.
problem with that whole set. But I think we've talked about it before.
Yeah.
So there were actually a couple Minervas there from the Chosen Prime booth. Now, they may have been sold right away. I have no idea, but I did see them in the vendor room like Friday night when I was setting up.
Yeah, they were $50.
They could have sold those for $150 if they wanted. They just didn't want to.
I think they sold them all. I didn't see them on the last day.
They sold them in 5 minutes. Preview hour. Yeah, they didn't make it to general admission.
Yeah. The sign the night before, the sign said $20, and I was like, "Can I get this?" And they're like, "Oh, we haven't priced everything yet." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, you're smarter than that."
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "You're not that dumb."
Because that's under retail.
Right.
Right.
Am I the only one in the group who got an exclusive?
Yeah. Probably.
I did not. So
Yes.
I'm gonna say yeah. Did you get Grad Delta?
You get the cassette.
You guys need to stall. I have a few of the exclusives to show off, so
Man,
you guys just stall for a second while I go grab them.
Then I'll talk about what I saw. Chuck was there. Some of you may know who Chuck is. That's Artfire 2000. And he is a old school seller that moved to Illinois but used to live in Hawaii, and he has connects in Japan. He's just like kind of an old school Transformers fan, but he had an amazing display of like everything that you've never seen in your life, and it included multiple Black Xerox, Star Sabers, Sky Garys, whatever you imagine, anything with a crazy name, it had it. But he also had ATB Megatron just sitting there, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
How much
Chuck.
was he asking on that?
I want to say it was $2,200. Was what the price sticker said.
I'm kind of surprised Peter didn't.
He already had. I asked him too. I thought he needed it. I was like, "Look, dude." He's like, "I already got one." I was like, "Oh,
okay.
Well, congratulations. You don't need that."
Well, I know.
And one of our cast members got it though.
Oh, really?
Ricky Rick.
Tricky Dicky Rick got it, and I think he got it for well under asking price. And if I had known Chuck would have taken that, I would have bought it like that. So I'm a dumbass. But you know what? I already have one. I don't need to be hoarding really rare figures. That's what's the fun in that? So I guess I'm happy for Rick that he got it. But that's a really good price.
That Chuck had a number of figures that was giving Peter the shakes because he was like, "Oh man, like if I just get these, these are kind of some of the final pieces." Like he had a really nice stepper in box that. And a few other ones as well.
I'd like a stepper. Do you remember what the price was on stepper?
$1,300.
Was it? 13?
Oh yeah,
I thought it was 1,600. I don't know.
It might have been 1,600. I thought it was 13.
Isn't that crazy? Because like that's been reissued essentially a few times now. So everyone's always like, "Oh, the reissue brings down the value of the original." Hell no, it doesn't. Maybe like for 5 seconds.
Probably briefly, but that was 15 years ago. That reissue came out.
Right.
But it used to be, I remember that used to be a $900 toy, stepper. And like, I thought, holy buckets, that's crazy. And now it's almost double that. I mean, a few short decades later, but like, still.
Right.
Yeah, it's impressive when there's a booth that like dropped Peter's jaw.
Well, I mean, it was Grail City. You want to talk about, that's my Grail. Well, no shit it is. That's everybody. Those are real Grails.
Yeah.
That was, the penitent man will pass going towards that booth.
Yeah, because that was a table that like, there's plenty of stuff that if you just have money, you can get. That was a table full of things like, you can have a ton of money, you just won't be able to find these things. And he just had a wall of things that are difficult to find and expensive.
I'm sure he did. My guess is that he made the most money of anybody over the convention. Like more than TF Source, maybe not more than Chosen Prime.
Yeah, I was going to say
everyone
Chosen would
else.
be the only one. Yeah.
Do I know for a fact? No, but I thought that was special. Like that's something like if you knew that was coming, you might have traveled to TFCon just to see his booth.
And Chuck hasn't done a TFCon in years. I think he said 2016 was the last time he had done one. So yeah, it's like 5 years in between or whatever, 6 years in between.
Well, and I think he did BotCon. I think he was at. I know he was at the 2016 BotCon.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the what he was talking about.
I swear I've seen it more recently than that. I could be wrong. They all kind of blend together after a while.
Well, that's what he said, because I asked him, because I think I remember him seeing him at 2016. I bought a couple things off of him at that point. Nowhere near this stuff. I'm more the like the stuff he puts in the front, for the kids or whatever. It's like I'm buying
the bins for kids to dig through.
Yeah.
That was me every year before this. This year I picked up rare crap. It was weird.
Look at you, Anna. And you bought the exclusives too. I mean, you're like the big spender, I guess, apparently.
I think I am. I think I'm not monetarily the big spender, but I think I'm like conceptually the big spender.
Well, you kept us in suspense, Anna. So let's take a gander.
Yeah, so I think I'm the only one in the group who got the Super Pass or whatever the hell it's called, so you can go to the 6 o'clock pick up your exclusives event. And there really weren't surprises at the 6 o'clock pick up your exclusives event. They had everything that was advertised. They had the God Delta and the cassette, and they didn't actually have the I believe they didn't have the Make Toys jet, and they didn't have the Planet X dinosaurs. They didn't have either of those. They definitely didn't have the dinosaurs. I can't remember if the jet was down there or not. So they had most of the exclusives down there at the preview event. They also had the, I think they're the X-Trans bots that are doing the G2 Protected bots. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
It's them. Okay. Yeah, they had 2 of those down there, and they had some older MMC exclusives along with this year's MMC exclusive. So there was no big exclusives, but there was, at least most of that stuff was down there that was supposed to be down there. And the only thing they had advertised was the big old Magna bomber set from Fans Hobby was the only thing they actually advertised. I'll tell you what surprised me, though, was I skipped the custom panel. And like, if you've known me for a while, I really love the custom panel as a concept. I think it's very fun to all sit around together, take apart a toy, turn it into something else. It's a great thing. But being an $80 panel that last year when I did it gave me a Flame Toys model kit I didn't want, that we had to put together and paint during the panel, just kind of soured me on these panels. So when this year's custom panel was turning the Bumblebee Ratchet into Strong Arm, I was a little bit disappointed in myself because it's like I would have enjoyed doing that together with everyone. But the surprise thing was they were actually selling the kits for it. You can kind of see her head there, and you can see the big handcuffs she comes with. So they're actually selling the kits so you can make your own there. So I was able to pick up one, and these were actually available throughout the whole convention. I don't think he sold out of them. And there was also, I think, at one of the cons they did Shafter, their TFCon character, out of Huffer Pipes, whatever the hell it is, whichever one they used for it. So that kit was there too. But that was cool because it was something I did not expect to have a chance to get. Now I have to find a Ratchet. I cannot find a Ratchet for sale for a normal price or lower. But
I wanted my stuff the whole weekend.
Yeah, I know, but I couldn't buy it because it was yours. It was weird. I don't know. I thought it was weird. I thought it would be strange.
Buy.
Okay, when I get it back from Orson, I'll send it on to you.
Perfect. That'll work out well. I'll pay you for it.
What? Okay.
What? Why wouldn't?
It felt weird. It felt weird.
I would have given you the Brofan prize.
Yeah, I also had one, Anna.
You did? Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't even see yours. See, I saw the one over there, and I wasn't sure if it was Christian's or not, and I got confused. I wasn't sure, so I just put it down, and then I couldn't find it again because everything was in bins.
Please buy Christian's
and it was hard to
things.
find them. Okay, sure.
Were you worried that it was a smallpox Ratchet?
Yes,
Okay.
that was actually what I was worried about. Sometimes Ratchet comes with smallpox, and I was worried about that. So the one exclusive I had planned to get was the MMC exclusive, the Steeljaw cassette, which was in fact there, does in fact exist, is probably part of their new pricing, it being $85 instead of the $60 that their cassettes used to be. So a lot of people were turned off by that. It's a cool box though, right? Like it's got the blaster sides. So it's like, he's a blaster and you can see through it. It's a cassette. Oh my goodness.
I think that's actually pretty cool.
It goes whoop, and opens up, and then he can fly out in your mind because he's actually in plastic and hard to pop out that easy. So I managed to get this one. I don't think it's sold out or anything. I actually have no idea if it's sold out or not. But it is available online right now, I believe. And what we found out at the convention is that this one is actually different than the main release version of the figure. This is the first edition. And the main release version of the figure looks like it probably has a little bit better paint. So
what's you gonna do?
Your mileage may vary when you get the first edition, you know. But it's pretty cool. I like it. It's fun. The big, crazy exclusive I did not get for myself, but I am sending to our mutual friend Catherine, is this old big sucker. I can't even be on the camera with it.
So big.
So this thing is massive, right? Like, I have a normal sized human head, and this thing is enormous. It is gigantic. I cannot express to Catherine and anyone else who are interested in this figure how much bigger this is once you take it out of the box. Like both the used to be Genrai and the used to be God Bomber figures are both hugely tall figures. They are so massive, and it comes with little extras and weapons and the little, I guess they're like the Headmaster Junior Duers. They used to be until they became Strange Colors. This is a massive and expensive exclusive. I personally have never seen an exclusive this large. Christian, do you have an exclusive that large?
Nero Rex was that large.
Oh, was that a con exclusive?
Yeah, it was at TFCon Charlotte.
Jeez, that is huge. That's a big one too then.
Yeah, this combiner was, I'm sorry, this exclusive was the size once you put the two of them together as like a third party MP scale combiner. So you're talking something that's about the size of like Orden or whatever the Piranacon third party toy is. It's because it's both tall and wide.
I like what I heard is I thought you said it's the size of Oregon.
Yeah.
It's the size of all of Oregon.
Yes.
It's so big. It's so big. It's so cool. Seems neat. I don't know.
Portland's like in his knee somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. Knee of Portland.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this was a neat exclusive for them to have. I kind of like, I prefer the like cheaper, smaller exclusives that don't feel like such a huge purchase as this one did. But like, if you want something that's memorable, this thing is memorable.
Catherine said open it.
I know, which is crazy. I did not know she expected me to open it. Catherine, I seriously think it will be easier to ship in that box than it would be if I took it out.
Yeah,
I bought
that box is Origami Supreme.
Earlier this year. It's too much.
It grows. Like you take it out of the box and
just keep it in the box and then to open it when it reaches its final destination. I have to move mine in a couple weeks, and that's going to be a real fun time.
I just have the Super Genrai parts from the version I have, and it is already absolutely massive out of the box. So
big fellas.
That's it for exclusives for me. Those are the only ones I got. There were a few other ones that were exciting for people, like the Planet X dinosaurs. People were pumped about those. But what is the most memorable thing each of you brought home with you? Facetious answers are allowed, Paul.
Bill?
So I'll just quickly show my haul because it wasn't a lot. And I actually spent more money on non-Transformer toys than I did Transformer toys. So besides Peter Cullen's autograph, I got David Kay's autograph. He did a little video for my son and I, which was fun. I bought 2 Super 7 Thundercats toys, which I'm very excited to open eventually. So I spent 100 on them, but actual Transformers toys I only spent 95. So I got a Heat Wave for my younger son. For my older son, I got him a Transformers T-shirt. As I showed earlier, we got Mr. Cloud Hot Rod here, which I'm very, very infatuated with, and he is nice and shiny. These Cloud decos are something else.
And then just rubbing it in, man.
Yeah, well, and then I got at a room party, a parts party, which, like, let's think about the parts party instead of, we have room party and then parts party. And parts party are where you sell your kidney to buy more Transformers. So you sell your parts versus buy parts. But I got a Mudslinger Power Core Combiner, which I'm enamored with Power Core Combiners. Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah.
We can make a Power Core triangle between me, you, and Christian.
There we go. I already messaged Orson, like, hey, whatever power cores you got left when you get back in town, let me know, because I got the itch for those right now.
There's a small temptation to sell you the ones that I don't need, but I think I need to continue having almost all of them.
Yeah,
I think that state of life actually makes me kind of happy.
I'm bummed I sold a couple of the main bodies. I sold Leadfoot and the Ice Guy, and I'm bummed at myself for doing that.
I have an extra of one of them. Let me figure out which one it is.
Sorry, not the Ice Guy. I have a Leadfoot, and I had a Leadfoot in the mechanic yellow construction vehicle thing. Sledge, yeah.
I have at least one repeat. I'll look for it and see and ask you if you want it, because I obviously don't need 2 of the same one, even though I actually have multiple repeats of their buddies. They're like, the 1-pack ones that just came with the little Arms Micron, Micromaster, Minicon, whatever the hell, Target Master, whatever term actually applied to those clear duders to turn into weapons, kind of. And I have like 4 of the axe, because the axe is really cool.
The axe is awesome.
I have like 2 red, 2 blue. Pretty. It's cool. Thanks for sharing, Phil. Sharing.
Yeah. Well, happy to do so. Christian, what did you acquire?
The coolest thing I acquired is probably the second coolest thing I've ever bought, and I'm not telling you what it is right now because it's not here and I didn't bring it home. So to answer Anna's question of the coolest thing I brought home, I bought 4 minicons from Orson. One is a set of the X Dimension race team, so they're like a blue Skyboom shield, very cool. And then I bought Element, who is a platinum Micron from Galaxy Force. He's a redeco of Cybertron 6-speed in clear and gold. Pretty fantastic. What, Peef?
Trying to figure out what that is.
Yeah, I can't pick it in my head either.
Yeah. All right, hang on. Show it to us.
Okay.
You showed me already. I already saw it, you guys.
The blue shield I can picture, but this other one, Cybertron 6-speed. Who is that?
This is Element.
Clear.
Is it too shiny?
Take it out of the...
Oh, yeah. Orson had those cool
Goddamn
bags
bag.
with the reflective stuff in the back. Those were neat.
Great for selling, horrible for podcasting.
Yeah.
Right.
Hang on. I will get him.
Especially for people who are just listening. Like, I can't even see it.
Well, no, there's something about that. I actually found out that our show is not being published right now to Apple or Android because there's like something broken with the link. We're trying to get that fixed. So I apologize.
Yeah, we're trying real hard.
No, I messaged Duran to see if we could figure it out together. So we'll see.
Also pretty.
The platinums were giveaways at Toys R Us in Japan when you bought a certain amount of products, and I don't think they were all 3 available at the same time.
Oh, nice.
6-speed was in the Recon minicon team. He's the Le Mans racer. I hope I can get the other 2 eventually. But when you see them, you grab them because you're collecting Galaxy Force and Cybertron stuff, and well, they don't come around often.
Mm-hmm.
I did not even know it existed, so very neat.
Surprise.
Very nice.
So for me, I didn't get a whole lot. I'm a little disappointed. I went under Christian's estimate for me. I actually only bought 1 toy, and I bought like 1 art thing, which so Casey Collier came out with his IDW retrospective, And this is really, really cool. Like, this is essentially almost like a hard, I don't know, whatever you call it, book. But it collects a lot of the art that he did over the years for IDW. And so he kind of shows it off online as well. But so this is cool. This was $40. I think that he may still be taking orders online for them. He sold out of like 2 of his cases at the show, but I think he still has another case that he was gonna do. So yeah, so I always love Casey's art. He does a great job. So yeah, so that was the
That's
art
cool.
thing that I
one of
got.
those.
Yeah, so that was neat. And then the toy that I got, which is kind of a little bit, I don't know. I feel like it's a little boring, but it's the MDLX Optimus Prime, which just came out not that long ago. But for those that don't know, I think we talked about this, like the MDLX Bumblebee that came out from 3.0. This is their stylized G1 line. And so they came out with the Bumblebee. They just came out with the Prime. Megatron's on the way. I believe they had also announced the Seekers, like I think a Starscream and a Sideswipe. And I think Cliff Jumper is also up for pre-order as well. So the thing that's really neat about this is this is, I guess, like similar to like the Amazing Yamaguchi figures, I guess, or trying to think of another corollary to this, like what's the other figures that are kind of like this, Anna and other
Revoltech?
lines? Yeah, maybe Revoltech, but like what
Revoltech's what publishes the Amazing Yamaguchi.
Right, but I was trying to think of another line, like I don't know if there's Bandai or whatever, but anyway, this I was gonna say the thing that's cool about this is I'm just amazed at what they pack in for the price point for this, because this is fully painted, like just the air, the dry brushing on the figure and all that is just really, really amazing. It doesn't have as much articulation as the Amazing Yamaguchi stuff, but like it still has a pretty good amount, and like there's not a lot of gaps for the figures when you're like kind of moving it around and whatever too. But
how does it you have Bumblebee?
I have the Bumblebee and I have the Optimus Prime. They're both really good for the price. I would say that I know Surge has the really big figures, which I can't remember whatever that line's called. They also have the DLX, which is like twice the size of these. That is more like Transformers, like the Bumblebee movie figures. Those are nicer than this, but like again, like the Soundwave for that is like over $200 in the Blitzwing or whatever. This is like $80 for the Optimus Prime. So for me, I kind of like this, prefer this to Masterpiece. Just because I'm probably not going to transform the Masterpiece anyway, so I'd rather have the like cool looking guys that can do some really neat poses and whatnot. So
very cool.
But yeah.
Well, I was curious about that compared to the Bumblebee, because the Bumblebee is phenomenal, but that toy for some reason doesn't look as to the same level as the Bumblebee. I don't know what it is. I think it's just the proportions or something. But the Bumblebee is so awesome, and that one looks almost a little too plain.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's. I don't know. I mean, it fits in. It's roughly about the same.
Yeah.
But
the Megatron. I think the Megatron looks like a better buck or figure than I don't know. Optimus is tough. You either hit him or you don't, and it's tough to stylize. Sometimes you really miss the mark, and that one's kind of.
I feel like that Megatron looks phenomenal, and I really want to get it though.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you have, maybe the Megatron will like help Optimus. I've thought about getting the Nemesis Prime one, because that for some reason like tickles my fancy a little better than the red and blue.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you would like the evil thing more.
Of course.
Again, I mean,
Evil. Well, I didn't. I mean, I told you I didn't buy much. I think I got less than everyone here. But I did take home a memory that is near and dear to my heart, and that's after the show. I went to have a beer at the bar because I was unpacking my stuff, and there, sitting across the bar, is Aaron Archer. Like I've heard the story so many times from so many other fans. Like, oh, I had a beer with Aaron Archer, and I'm like, holy crap, this is it. So I told my buddy. Well, I was nervous actually because I don't know the guy, and my buddy BP was like, I'll go ask him to come over. I'm like, yes, you do that, please. And he did. And here he came and sat right down next to us. And he had his dinner, and we were just hanging out, shooting the shit on Transformers and toys and Takara and like the inner workings of Hasbro and just all the questions that I've always wanted to ask, like I think I asked them all, and we had a great time, and it felt pretty natural, and it was just a great way to end my convention.
That sounds really cool.
I wish one of you guys would have been there. I wish that, because I was with BP, who's a good friend. Brian, right? Is he one of our listeners?
Yep. One of our listeners. Yep.
Yeah, he was next to me, and then there was another guy that was an attendee that I didn't know, but we had talked a little bit. Was there? So I was kind of amongst a lot of people I wasn't super familiar with other than BP. But I would have killed to have like someone else I know be there to ask questions, like Peter. If Peter would have been there, that would have been awesome.
Or Christian.
Anyone, honestly. Anyone.
Peter wouldn't have had to ask questions. He would already know the answers.
Probably. He would have. Well, he would have asked questions deeper than I would have. You know what I mean? It would have been great.
I did see him
so
as
fun.
I was doing the loadout, and I was walking back to get some stuff, and he was walking out of the convention hall in the parking lot. And I did refer to him as AA Ron, and we talked for a few minutes.
Good work.
Yeah. Like in hindsight, I'm like, oh, I'm glad he's a cool dude, because that might not have gone over well with some people.
Might not have.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very easygoing. Seems like someone that's really happy in his life, and
yeah.
So that's just great to see. And did we even mention he was there as a guest? I think he gave a panel. He had a booth with a table, and he was very close to my selling table. So I saw him, and the guy that wrote Prime was there all day.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, he was telling someone he sold like all of some of the things he bought. So he had a very, very good weekend.
Yeah. Oh, that's what he said. Yeah. He was bringing. Said he brought 3 prints. That was it, and he sold out of them.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the art book, not the print.
An art book from yeah, that's awesome. So
he made a buzzsaw for me.
Oh,
That's so cool.
Look at you.
Very nice.
Not at the con, but a couple weeks before when he put them up on his website. But he had them there too.
Nice.
So cool.
Yeah, no, Aaron's is a really nice guy. I know that he's been on the podcast in the past as well, and it's always fun. But
Probably my favorite human
yeah,
that has ever existed in all of time.
Thanks.
Wow.
Well, now I know why.
Imagine he's had to put up with Rick so much over the year. I mean, you have to be an amazing human being for that, right?
His level of patience.
Phenomenal. Well, I started this conversation thread. Can I share my most memorable gets?
No.
Are we out of time?
You already mentioned your most memorable.
I thought you
get,
did.
right? Didn't you?
I did?
Well, you mentioned what you got for your friends.
I said doing the
and
exclusives.
you mentioned exclusives. Yeah, I apologize.
Exclusives.
I thought you already
Posh.
mentioned certain figures at the beginning of the show. I'm assuming what you're talking about.
I got vintage figures for like the first time ever, right? Like Anna doesn't usually collect vintage. Anna collects things that are fun and new and interesting. But I found one of my childhood non-Transformers, a Buddy L transforming dinosaur. It's not Grimlock. It's not a KO of Grimlock, but it does steal most of Grimlock's tooling. Like it, instead of having the chest move around, it just flips up. The head is definitely not quite Grimlock.
That's Seacon Grimlock?
Yeah, and this was the colors I had it in. So these actually came in multiple colors. I had the like Easter egg colors looking like Seacons. I had all 3 of them they made, which were my Dinobots as a kid, because I was mostly yard sales and dollar stores and Big Lots for all my toys. So these were the ones I had, the pretty pink and teal and purple, and mine got lost a long time ago, so I'm so excited to have it. It is so old. I believe the screws are rusted to the point where I can't get his legs out, so I'm going to need to like mess with those, because this thing is, you know, my childhood. The only date I could find out was like 92, which is, I think, too new. I think it was probably closer to 80s when this version was made, because the 92 was a different color that I saw. But yeah, these things are not common anymore because of how old they are, and they actually were pretty good toys. And come on, these colors, Seacons.
Is it impolite for me, Anna, to ask you how much that cost you?
Like, almost nothing, because seller there had a box of things that he had labeled as KOs. So he was just kind of like, grab a whole bunch of them, give me a few bucks for them, and
so I think
whatever.
The story is that the seller in his room sale is like, people sell me lots of toys, and someone had a bunch of garbage that they threw in. And so here, Anna, take this hot knockoff garbage. I will sell it to you for almost nothing. Just get it out of my life. Here's a whole bag of them. Is that essentially how it went down?
And Anna spent over an hour on 2 occasions digging through the bites of KOs because it was so wonderful. So I found that, which is not actually a KO. That's actually an original design. And then I found a few of my like teenage childhood KOs. Like this wonderful, not quite Heinrad, in the wrong colors, with one certain thing about how I'm completely missing and are different, depending on how you want to think about it. I had this one as a kid. I lost it at one point or another in many moves, and I am so excited to have this thing back because it is goofy. I'm pretty sure I just transformed it right before I showed it off. And I'm pretty sure some of the joints are about to say goodbye, so he might be a Tanuki forever, because it looked like some things were like, hey, I'm KO plastic and I'm over 20 years old, so probably don't transform me again.
Is that the thing BP thought was a lucky draw and spent like $600 on?
I believe so.
I believe so. Yeah. He's a trickster. Tanukis are tricksters, right? Sometimes they're good luck. Sometimes they're good luck. That time they were not. This time it is good luck because I was so excited. I also got the Big Lots Lio Convoy they did, which is a wobbly mess. But I don't think they were actually made by Big Lots. They were just sold by Big Lots in my region.
How much did it cost?
Again, it was in that
for price
pile of nothing that I got. I also got some, what do you call them? Converters. I had some old converters from that too, which are cool. I don't have any of them set up here because I only wanted to show off a couple.
I want to see the converters.
Anna has like the opposite of the oof my wallet over there. She's like, oh man, I got a whole bag of stuff for like $10.
Oof my brain.
And the other memorable thing I got, Lucas does not want me to show, so I'm going to show the most tasteful side of it. But I did get my second Kiss player.
And I know who you bought that from too.
You do. Everybody does, because I keep bugging them because I wanted it.
I kept my Kiss players boxes because I thought someday some dude's gonna want this box. And I have
this one's hard because like I don't want to show off the inside of it because it has risque pictures, whatever. It's Kiss players, but like it sure does look nice in the box all put together. But I think I have to open it because Kiss players are cool. I can show the back. There's nothing risque on the back.
It's got the surfboard, man.
It's got that damn surfboard. I want to play with that surfboard. The Alternator Optimus mold is not phenomenal. It is okay. The surfboard is really cool.
It's aged poorly.
And the Marissa is a cool thing to have just because I know about Kiss players. I've actually listened to Kiss players and read it, and well, 2 out of 3. All I have to do is eventually find the South Hot Rod set. Eventually.
Good luck.
And then I'm not getting the rest of it because the rest of the stuff is too expensive for what it is.
You're lucky my Atari Scream is buried under some shit, all right?
You show it off because it's cool. That Atari Scream is like, is it the rarest piece or are the cassette bots rare? Okay.
Oh, the Atari Scream is like... Atari Scream is up there with rarest Transformer pieces. Yes,
Okay.
it is, Christian.
Why
I'm
was
sorry.
it so rare?
I'm sure it is. It's just ridiculous.
Okay,
Why
so
is it
Kiss
so
Players
rare?
is canon, guys. So just deal with it. That's what
Why-
Kiss Players says to you.
Why is Atari
says-
Scream so rare, Paul?
Canon.
Because they only made like 5. I don't know. They didn't make enough.
It was an e-hobby, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think they made them to order and no one ordered it.
Because the cassettes and the, what do you call the ball dooders? Spark bots. The
Oh.
cassettes and the spark bots were both e-hobby exclusives. And yeah, so I'm excited to have that. I had other things too. I actually am probably the one in the group who got the most stuff, but a lot of it was KOs and converters and interesting, a lot of Anna things.
Is there a reason why you won't say where you bought it?
Because I don't really like identifying people
Okay.
if they're not here to like
Okay.
vouch for themselves.
Let's call them the guy next to my room.
Yeah, the guy next to Paul's room.
Oh, I didn't realize it was him. I thought it was... I saw another guy who was
No.
selling the thing.
They're
No,
talking
not
about
the
two
Kiss
different
Player.
things, Bill.
Yeah, the
The,
knockoffs.
the converters and KOs came from the guy next to Paul's room.
Yes, the Kiss Player did not.
Okay.
The Kiss Player
Gotcha.
did not.
So the Kiss Player came from my other friend then.
Yes, the Kiss Player came from your other friend. I just don't identify people because they're not here to talk for themselves. I don't know. It just feels weird to me.
You're like, don't buy their things, those people that, you know.
This
have
is why
online
I'm bad at
stores.
networking.
I don't
You know
promote
how
anybody.
Right.
a couple of you have been like, well, how could you be bad at networking, Anna? You have a big degree and stuff. And I'm not good at networking because I want people's permission. If I had asked their permission first to mention them on the show, I would have done it. You should ask Peter Cullen's permission. We talked about him a lot.
I didn't
Just
ask
kidding.
Aaron Archer.
They're legit
Right.
celebrities. They lose their freedom.
Paul's just name dropping all over the place over here, and
Yeah, right? Once you become a celebrity, you just get, your name is dropped everywhere.
Well, I mean, isn't that us now? I mean, how many people recognized you folks this past week?
At least 3.
Yeah.
0.
Way I
You
like.
were in disguise, Christian, by not being in
I look
disguise
like
at all.
this. I think I was wearing this shirt.
No,
They don't
someone,
recognize you without the guitar in the background.
I can't remember who it was, who said like, oh, Anna, you stick out because there aren't many redheads around. And I was like, I stick out. We got the red beard of the year here right beside me. You need to become redder, Christian.
I don't know how.
I mean, I
I
don't
tried.
know.
It made it brown.
You know, the guy next to the guy that had the room next to Paul. I mean, I feel like he might be a celebrity. I mean, he was featured in the Toys That Made Us. So, you know, there you go.
All
He
right,
didn't recognize me either.
real quickly on that, fellow cast member Rick is in the new toy show. I'm already blanking on the name. I apologize.
The Toys That Made America.
Yeah, the Toys That Made America. Rick is in the first episode. He messaged us.
Yeah, he is.
How do you watch that show? Does anyone know?
I don't know.
Oh, find it.
What?
Do your own research, people.
What? I don't know. Like, I haven't watched anything. All I've done since I got home was be tired and grade papers.
I'm
Those are my
sorry, the Toys
accomplishments.
That Built America, not Made America.
The Toys
I
That
think
Built
it's on
America.
The Toys That Made Us was an old
Okay.
show. It's old
Oh.
news.
Yeah.
What?
You know, I don't know
Was that
any
not
toys
it?
that built America.
Was that not it?
Since
That
when?
was-
No,
just
that's it.
informed
You're
us.
right, Lucas.
Yeah, you were.
Since when was America built out of Legos? I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
It's
it
on
was
History
off the
Channel.
blood of slaves and stuff.
According
but
to my
that's just me.
Googles, it's on the History Channel. So Rick,
Hostile
like
Channel.
an old man, was like, "Oh, it's on channel 27 in the hotel."
He didn't say that to us.
He's like, maybe I can get everyone in the hotel to watch the same channel at the same time. No,
It was a tad
No.
delightful.
it's on channel 27.
Yelling at his daughters to turn the knob on the TV for him so he doesn't have to get up and do it himself.
Right, too hard. Did I find any other KOs over here? No, I didn't. I can't show any other KOs. Damn it.
Good, yeah.
All right, when we're off the air, Anna, I want to see your converters, please.
Oh, I have one converters.
All right, let me see. Please.
Forgot that. I need to actually get it to one mode or the other now because it was between modes, having a rough day.
Those things take forever to transform.
They're hard. They're like advanced.
Yeah.
So, Phil, did you sell your Unicron?
I did not for sell my Unicron.
The world wants to know.
Do you have your own
Unicron is still
Unicron?
for
Is that an
sale.
extra? Or is that
that's
your
my only
Unicron?
Unicron, and I'm just like, it's too big. I just don't have enough room. I got yelled at last night. Oh, the bat! That thing's sweet. That's awesome.
Oh, that's all sorts of weird.
It is.
It's super cool. It's a little close to Mind Wipe, but
Yeah. But that I
Clearly.
think predates Mind Wipe, right?
should.
Yeah.
Maybe this is 85. He would
So
have
is
been
Mind
80.
Wipe a knockoff of the converter?
Yes.
Is that what we're saying?
Revealed on
Probably, 'cause
TFYLP.
Mind Wipe sucks.
Mind Wipe is a knockoff.
So
I haven't met a
Phil,
mold
you're-
of Mind Wipe yet that I enjoy.
Because, like, okay, so his bat head goes to store in the chest. The arms come out of the chest, which isn't Mind Wipe. The legs go around the back, which is Mind Wipe. The wings go on the back, which is Mind Wipe.
More like
It's very
butt
similar.
wipe.
Agreed.
Very similar. I also got the spider.
I had the
and
spider as a kid.
The spider's pretty cool. And the other ones I actually got were from the Invading Animals series, which include a little red lizard and a moth.
I don't remember those. Oh, wow.
They're
I
actually
got a
pretty
chameleon for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
nice.
such an awesome little chameleon. It's
The
really
the spider's neat. You took his arms and his like underneath his like abdomen, kind of big bulbous thing. The
yeah.
biggest downside to the spider is that like his spider legs just hang off the robot legs in robot mode.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. It's a bit of a mess, but they pull back a little tiny bit.
They
They
do,
pull
but
back
it's
as
like
much as the 80s folded back.
yeah, his legs are already like disproportionately large compared to the rest of his body, and then the spider legs hanging off make it even more awkward. But no, he had a cool head, I remember.
Fat no more robot. Rawr.
Oh yeah, that's a good robot.
This is the only way I'm going to get excited about vintage toys is if they're like knockoffs or little tiny things that were like Transformers but fit my child hands better, because that's what converters and GoBots were for me.
Birds were cool.
Transformers were hard because they were big. These are little.
So
Yeah.
Phil, your wife is upset that you brought the Unicron back.
Well, a little bit, and then she's also upset that I got my Marvel Legends Galactus in the mail yesterday.
Oof.
I had that sitting on my kitchen counter last night, like standing on the kitchen counter, and she comes home from work last night. She's like, "What the hell is that, and why is it in my house?" She's like, "You don't have room for this thing." I'm like, "I will once I get rid of the stuff you sell." Like the stuff I'm selling. Like, "Oh, you mean the stuff you're gonna sell this past weekend?" Like, yes.
You never should have called your wife to come to the place and help you move it.
Oh no, she was very, very amicable about helping me move stuff. She was a trooper this weekend. Yeah. So no, my wife.
I'm getting conflicting reports here from the story you just told and now this new one.
Well, no, my wife is just like you have another giant toy. Where are you supposed to fit this? So she is very trusting of me. That I will say I did not have as great of a weekend selling stuff as other folks did. The fortunate thing for me is the stuff that I didn't sell. There's other venues that I can sell it, fairly easily and at good prices.
Shout out to Phil's wife.
She took care of the boys for me while I was hanging out with all you dudes and ladies, and she brought the boys over and tolerated being at a convention for like an hour and a half when she has no interest in any of this. And her commentary was, it felt like a mixture of a live eBay room and a live Etsy room. I'm like, yeah, that's I've never heard of that, but that works.
That's one thing we saw, like right after the con ended. A bunch of us saw this post where a person gave TFCon a negative review. Basically, their negative review went, TFCon was a Transformers convention. I don't like that. And that was it. Because Transformers conventions are different than other conventions. Like, I've been to a lot of anime conventions. I've been to 2 of the biggest anime conventions in the country, and they are nothing like Transformers conventions. It's all about the panels, it's all about the big events, concerts, raves, all that kind of stuff in an anime convention. The Transformers conventions are about the dealer's room. That is the story. That is where the story is told. Dealer's room, guest.
That's why I keep telling people it's a hobby of buying stuff. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Get over it. Pretend as much as you want. That's what we are here for.
Yeah, because among us,
Don't
like,
be
how many
snoozing.
people actually get around and watch the new shows, right? Like, a new show comes out, we half-ass watch it and complain about it for 5 minutes, and then buy a billion toys from it. It's like, oh yeah, the War for Cybertron trilogy was kind of crappy. I bought all the toys. Oh, those Netflix shit toys? Yeah, bought those all. No, it was horrible. That's how we act.
There was an interesting encounter as I was taking everything down. The gentleman who was the voice of Rhinox in the Netflix show was there this weekend, signing autographs and whatnot. And the guy who had a dealer booth behind me, they went to college together, and neither of them knew they were there until the end of the show.
That's cool.
Yeah. They're like, oh, what are you doing here? I'm the voice of Rhinox. What? What are you doing here? I'm selling Transformers. Here's one of your toys that I have.
I kind of feel bad for those guys who are like, you know, the newer voice actors or the like less known voice actors. I went to his panel for a minute because Rick had me hide a thing under a seat. So I went to his panel to hide something, and there just weren't as many people there. It was kind of a bummer, you know. It's just like a smaller line of people asking questions. I wish they got more attention because, you know, he'll probably be a big deal when he's 72.
Yeah. I mean, I think, Anna, to your point, though, about this convention not being like other conventions, is that anime conventions are about stories and cartoons and characters. And when we have big fiction stuff that's happening, like the IDW books were going full steam ahead, you would have big panels with James Roberts, you know, talking about the book and doing all that stuff. And, you know, that those years probably felt more like an anime con. But for the most part, this is Transformers is a toy convention where, you know, the main toy that's being sold is Transformers.
Yeah. No, you're right about that. That's really what it's about. And
yeah,
like Beasttown USA will come and go. We'll have like a couple panels next year about it to be like, that movie wasn't great, but it had toys. Yeah. And
a Rise of the Brave.
I'm excited for Earthspark.
Beach party in the USA.
Earthspark looks
pretty
cool.
sure it takes place in Peru.
But part of it takes place in New York.
So I do have a question, Anna. Like, honestly, I didn't really notice that much, but the new like tabletop like role playing game for Transformers was like booth was like set up right across from us. Like, was it even really getting that much like interest or no?
They demoed the shit out of the deck building game. So like they were constantly demoing the deck building game. The whole weekend, just demoing. As far as I know, they did not demo the tabletop RPG. The tabletop RPG actually has a pretty complicated role set. I will say, like, having read the rule book and planning to start running it this weekend, it is, you know, it's not quite as complicated as 3rd edition Dungeons and Dragons, but it's definitely a derivative of 3rd edition Dungeons and Dragons, which is pretty complicated. So that would be really hard to teach it. Like, you couldn't just have people sit down at a table and be like, here's your characters, we're going to play, boo, boo, boo.
But
You'd
the deck building
like
game, like, how much interest was there? You know, like, I didn't really feel like there was
I heard the people running that table multiple times telling people, hey, this is a deck building game about Transformers. It is the most convoluted and complicated and confusing deck building game I've ever played. It just did not feel like a good review. Like, you tell me that. I'm like, where do I get one that isn't that? But I'm looking forward to playing that tabletop RPG. Like, I don't know how to go. I played Dungeons, Dragons, and Pathfinder, I want to say my whole life, but, you know, the better part of 20 some odd years at this point. I'm curious how an actual Transformers themed, with transformations and mini cons is rule sets. I'm excited for that. Maybe I'll talk about it on the show after I run it for a while.
There you go.
2 or 3 people will watch and be like, hey, I'm playing that game with you.
And it's a national champion because only 3 people play it.
Right? So, no, people put out reviews of it already. Like, they played the pre-gen adventure with their D&D groups, and they're like, I like it, or I don't like it, or it has robots. What are these?
I forgot that I did actually bring something home, but it was something I bought for myself, and it's this Megatron water gun. And
do you have water in it right now?
No, it's bone dry, thankfully.
No squirts of disappointment?
He shot me with it the other night, and then I shot him with it the other night. It was great.
And then he shot his comic books that he was trying to sell.
No!
Yeah, and they're fine. I don't really recommend this. It's not a very for the price. It's not good enough. But
would you recommend it as just a display piece, like hanging on a wall kind of thing?
Yeah, but I guess I'd also say get an MP36 or a G1 Megatron instead of this thing,
or an MP5 even, if you're just going to put it in that mode.
Yeah.
Or a new age Megatron. Haha, legends.
No.
Well, we're past 2 hours, so closing remarks, folks.
Yeah, for reals. We all had fun, obviously, right? Like, good things, bad things. We all had a great time. For a lot of it is just seeing each other in real life. Like, we mostly like each other, the cast does. So getting to hang out together and stuff is really cool, and eat crazy cake milkshakes. Oh, that cake milkshake at Portillo's, like, that thing was a life-changing experience. I don't feel I consumed that much sugar in like 10 years at one time. It was amazing. I really enjoyed it.
It's also a life-shortening experience.
Yes, I imagine. I'm down to like 5 minutes from now after eating that thing, but it's so good. It was delicious. That's my closing remark. My closing remark is I got to eat cool stuff. And I like any trip where I get to eat cool stuff.
I was gonna say I feel like I've kind of somewhat come full circle for conventions. This is the first time that I've sold my own stuff at TFCon. So I've been there kind of as the attendee, just doing the panels and not really talking to people. I've been to there as with friends and just being excited for the dealer room and spending way too much money in the dealer room. And now I feel like I've kind of had the experience of, selling in the dealer room as well. So it was a ton of fun. I, loved seeing all of you guys. I love seeing, all the other new people that I met at the show as well. So, yeah.
I had a great time. I would do it again, but I'm not going to do it. I don't think I'm going to Florida.
What?
You're going to
Like at all, or just not to sell?
You're going. I'll see you there.
Wish it was in Tampa. I wish they would have a party. I wish they had like the rave thing you're talking about, Anna. Like, can't they just get the Cybertronic spree to come and just like have a party at a bar, and like the people that are too scared to go just don't go, and the rest of us go freaking party? Like,
I would really like to have night programming at a Transformers convention, like just late evening programming for people to hang out with. Like we all go and hang out in each other's rooms and stuff, but like I just miss that about anime cons. Anime cons, we would go till 1 a.m. One of the anime cons we went to had Japanese grindhouse movies showing usually from like 12 in the morning to like 4 in the morning. It was one of the best experiences just watching that in a room full of people. So I wish we had stuff like that.
If I knew how to do it, I would become DJ Destron and like play music. I would like be like, okay, set me up for 2 hours and let's do this. Like, I know what I would play, I just don't know how to do it. Like, I'm not girl talk, but I wish I was. And like put Transformer clips in there and stuff, like make it cool. But it's probably too cool for for us.
I had a great weekend. It was a ton of fun. This is become an annual thing for me that I will, try and travel to every year for the fall show. I'm not sure why the spring show doesn't get as much love. I think because most of us are more, middle of the country towards the eastern part of the country. But this is a darn good time.
Christian, do you have any thoughts?
Oh, it was TFCon. I was happy to see everyone. I bought a few things. I sold a few more things. I'm excited to go again next year.
Yep. I want to mention book club this week is going to be Optimus Prime 18 and 19. So that's going to be Sunday night on the TF Talk Discord. So if you want to join everybody with that, that's at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. Is that right, Anna?
Yep. Backwards as always.
Yep. So
have we set the record for the longest Microcasters episode tonight?
Yeah.
No.
What's the longest one, Christian?
There are two.
We don't talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
They're Bruno?
Yes, they're Bruno.
Oh,
Sure.
no.
We'll leave you on a mystery.
Yeah, with that, we're leaving. Goodbye.
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, have a good night, everybody.
What that episode
Thanks for
is.
listening.
Anyway, nevertheless, all right. Have a good night, and we will see you next week.
See ya.
Bye, everybody.